Welcome to the Marshall News and Views Show. I'm Elaine Conyers, and I have two guests today. First is Jamie Lanners, who is chairman of the Act on Alzheimer's group here in Marshall, which is a new group that just came into existence just a few months ago. And I just preluded a little bit to tell about that organization. It's a state organization, and the state gave Marshall $18,000 to work and train people in the community about Alzheimer's, how they react to those people that have Alzheimer's, and how they deal with the general public. So she's been the chair of that, and she's deeply involved in this. And today she's bringing on Ruthe Thompson, who is an instructor at the YMCA. And you just kind of recently started working with Ruthe. And tell us about what you're going to be doing.
You want to go?
Well, how the partnership became about is through Act on Alzheimer's. We surveyed the community and found out there's two gaps, and that was awareness and wellness. And so we contacted the YMCA to see if they'd be interested in having a dementia-friendly Y and holding a dementia-friendly day once a month.
Okay.
So what it became of is a lot of meetings with it, and then Ruthe came on board to be our instructor.
Good.
So.
Well, I was very honored to be invited to instruct the class, and I'm still not quite sure. Is it because I'm the oldest yoga instructor on the? I don't think I am quite the oldest, but I think it might be because I have a lot of experience with Alzheimer's, and I teach at Southwest State. I teach English, and so when I get involved in something, I like to find out a lot about it. And I started volunteering at Morningside Heights Assisted Living. My good friend Christopher Tron, who works there, suggested it when he found out that my mother had Alzheimer's, and she has dementia pretty badly. She's in assisted living now with my father, and so I wanted to learn how to cope with the experience of being a caregiver or partial caregiver for someone who has Alzheimer's. And my parents live in another state, so I see them as often as I can. But what I found is, and this is what I'm bringing to the ACT program at the YMCA, is that patience and time and concern for the person that may have memory lapses, but they're still there. That is what's paramount. So I took a class, one of those multi-online open user courses. I think that's what they're called, MOOCs they're called. I took a class on Alzheimer's and other neuropsychiatric disorders, and I learned a lot about, it was really for caregivers, so I learned a lot about how to set up an environment that will be helpful for people who have dementia, and Alzheimer's being one form of dementia. And so when I started teaching at the Y, I started about 6 months ago. I've been certified to teach yoga for about 10 years, but suddenly there weren't very many yoga teachers. I've been taking classes for a long time, and I found out that they needed yoga instructors for 2 days a week, so I started teaching. I love it. I teach 2 days a week at the Y, and then the fitness director, Jessica Doms, asked me to teach this program, and I was excited because I have spent a lot of time with my mother, and my family, I think that my immediate family, I'm the only family member who really can get over that frustration. Because the thing about people with Alzheimer's is that they ask the same question over and over and over, and they don't mean to be frustrating, and they're just, something occurs to them and then it occurs to them again, and I know that I'm forgetful sometimes, and so the way I handle it is I just answer them again. And so I found that this experience that I've had has made me really very concerned for and wanting to offer service to, and also just fond of people with these memory care issues. So that's kind of how I got involved in the long narrative. And maybe you want to talk about the caregivers.
As far as the class?
Yeah.
So how the class is structured, it starts at 10:15 with yoga, and that's a time for the caregiver and the person with dementia to be in the class together.
Okay.
And then there's a break, and then at 10:45 to 11:05 there's another fitness class, and they
Okay.
kind of go the first class kind of went into each other. It was a little break, but it just slowly went into that one. And it was, both classes were the person with dementia and then the caregiver. And then we do have a second part of the class that is like a social time, a craft time, maybe time for singing. It's more of a structured social time. And that can be for the person with dementia and the caregiver, or it can also be a time for respite time for the caregiver.
Okay.
So the caregiver can go work out additionally if
Yeah.
they want to in the
Okay.
facility.
Great, great.
Yep.
So we found that in the first class, the caregivers all wanted to stay, and they participated in the art activity. And we did a drawing that where you make 3 lines on the paper, and then you start drawing shapes within the lines. It has the word Zen in the name and Zenfographic. I know that's not right, but it sounds kind of cool. and so everybody did that. They enjoyed it, and all the Alzheimer's patients. I don't know if that's really the right word to call them. What would you call them?
I say people with dementia.
People with dementia.
That makes
All the people with dementia. Really, they did participate. They seemed to enjoy it. The caregivers stayed. People were talkative. We had cookies, and I walked around the tables and talked to people, and it was really a wonderful and pleasant experience. And then in the next class on September 11th, we are going to do some interesting art experience with. I don't know if people will know the books by Eric Carle, The Very Hungry Caterpillar. They're children's books, but it's not a children's activity. This is an activity that people of all ages can do. And we're going to have pieces of colorful tissue paper and then white paper and crayons and pens and things. So you can draw a picture of whatever you want. It could be a caterpillar, it could be the sun, it could be a house, it could be some intricate design of your own making. And then you can draw that, and then you use the tissue paper to sort of glue it on in interesting places, and we'll have glue that's mixed with water. And so it could be abstract, but it's really beautiful. And I really like Eric Carle's books, and I happen to have some pieces of tissue paper that this artist, who's now deceased, had painted on, because we have watercolors too, and you can paint on the tissue paper little designs or whatever you want. And so I had them framed. I have about 9 of them, kind of in a really nice frame in my house.
Wow.
So when I was thinking about, okay, what's the next project, I have done this before with students, so I thought this would be fun. So we're going to try that. And then in terms of singing, I'm going to need to solicit people from the public, people from the audience out there. If you got a guitar, if you can sing, because my singing is, I had a friend, I was singing along with the radio, and he turned to me and he said, "You can't sing, can you?" And I said, "Well, I guess not." This person used to be in the choir. So I don't know if I could lead singing, but it would be really nice if there's anybody out there watching who's interested. They can call me at 507-401-1121, and I'll hook you up to help with some singing, because it would be really nice. We'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
So you've just had one of these meetings so far. When was that?
That was
Last?
August.
In August, okay.
August, the second Friday in August. They're
August
always
14th.
14th, okay. So it's once a month, so the next session will be September
11th.
11th, okay.
Yep.
And it starts at 10 or
10:15.
10:15, and runs for 2 hours then.
Yep.
So you do both instructions. You do the yoga first, and then you also go across and then do the artwork too.
and the fitness in between. So it's the yoga is sort of flexible movements. You're working on strength, really trying to work on balance, since we live around ice and snow. And also, as you get older, I just tripped on my pants today, and I didn't fall down. And I said, "Yoga," because otherwise I would have fallen down in the parking lot. And so that's really important for seniors. I've looked at a lot of information about this, and so if we can just hold on to the back of the chair and stand on one leg, that
Okay.
is something. We're not going to be doing some kind of crazy pose. We're just beginning. And then we'll see, as people sustain and continue coming to the program, they're going to get stronger, more flexible, and less timid, although I really didn't notice anybody being timid at all.
Yeah.
People were really confident and happy to be there. And then in the middle, the fitness is more, we could work with weights. We have balls that we pass around and raise up and forward and swirling and maybe stand up behind our chairs and do some things with our arms.
Yeah. Well, Jamie, you work with the Alzheimer's Association, and it is important for those people to do exercise, right?
Exercise and diet are very important.
diet too,
Yep,
yeah.
throw in both. It's good for even before you have it, for anybody. It really doesn't matter who you are, no matter what, if you have a disease or not. Exercise is so important, and Ruth can share with you the importance of exercise because.
Did you have quite several people come then for the first class?
We had 13.
Oh,
So
that's good to start.
It
Yeah.
was. We had a couple from Boulder Creek that came over that we brought over, and then we had 4 couples, and then even a couple individual caregivers came
Oh, okay.
by themselves.
Great.
So it was a wonderful combination for
Yeah.
the first group.
Yeah, well, good. And how long will this continue? Just as long as you want
Our
to
hope
do it?
is to continue it. Our grant goes through December, so
Okay.
the grant is funding the Y to do
Okay.
this class, but I'm hoping in the future that they'll be able to keep it going, and it'd be more on, you have to pay probably or become a member
yeah.
to participate. Right now, the class is free through the grant, so you don't have to pay, you don't have to worry about, you just show up, sign in, and get to go to enjoy the facilities. So it's a nice opportunity to try out the Y and to get to know. And one neat thing is all the instructors from the YMCA did go become a dementia friend.
Okay, good.
So I went and trained them in that. And what a Dementia Friends is a hour session that they sit through to learn the basics of dementia and how to communicate and ways to become a volunteer to help with people with dementia and caregivers.
Yeah. And as the program continues, let's see, when did we start that? How many months ago, do you remember?
The ACT?
Yeah.
Actually, it's been a year.
Is it already been a year? Oh, my.
But we got to the,
Yeah.
we actually got to start acting and
Yeah.
using the funds for action in May.
In May,
Yeah, so it hasn't been too long
Yeah,
of the
but-
action part, but
But it's something that that the government sees as a real need, and they're willing to give communities the money in order to get this started.
Yeah.
And I've done some interviewing as you have, and it's interesting to hear comments from people. What? Well, I don't know anyone with dementia. You know, there's just a lot of things that people need to learn. They need to learn the signs,
Yeah.
and then of course how to deal with it.
yeah.
You know, so but our community is getting informed, and that's good. We've got a long way to go,
Yeah, we
but
do.
at least we've got a really good start.
Yep. And so many people, like you said, say, I don't have anything to do it, I won't know.
Yeah.
But it's so pertinent to get informed about Alzheimer's
Oh, yeah.
because the numbers are growing. The statistics now are 1 in 9 over the age of 65
yeah.
will have a dementia, some form of dementia, and then over the age of 85 is 1 in 3.
Okay.
So it's really, the numbers are growing, and when we ran the statistics for Marshall, there was 192 according to the population with those statistics that have a form of dementia
Okay.
or will have it living in the community.
Yeah.
And that shows why we need so many community services to provide for them and people to become educated with business and all the different segments that we've
Right.
talked about because they're going to come in contact with them
yes.
and it's good to help them and be proactive.
Right. And then, of course, with people living longer, they predict that, you know, with the baby boomers getting older now, there's going to be a huge influx of older people, and that means there'll be a lot more with dementia also. And so it's something that we really have to take seriously.
Yeah.
Yep. So you've been busy with that, and you've got a very active committee, and that's good, and
Yep.
doing all this programming, so that's wonderful. And we certainly hope we can continue with the Y like that. That sounds very, very good. And anything, well, I know you've got something coming up here that at the Y, you want to tell us about this healthy
Yep.
passport to healthy living?
Yeah,
Is that
this
right?
goes
Or
with
aging?
perfect what we're talking about. We're having a senior health fair, excuse me, called Passport to Healthy Aging, and it's Wednesday, October 7th at the Y in Marshall, and it's 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock.
Okay.
And it's sponsored by One Voice for Seniors, so it's a different group, but we're actually
Well,
pretty much all the same people.
Sure.
We're all going
Yeah.
towards promoting a healthier and engaged community. So,
and this is basically for community members to come to, is that right?
yep, any community member. It's gauged towards healthy aging, so everybody is aging.
Yeah.
So it's open to anyone. They'll have a bunch of different vendors that will do free health screenings, so blood pressure, vision checks. They have a whole list of them. So
Okay.
it would
Good.
be a good time to come get a free screenings
Right.
for
Exactly.
anyone.
Yeah, it's free screening and education. That's
Yep.
right. So good. Well, people will there'll be more information out there as the time gets closer too,
Yep.
so that people can watch for that. So, are there some other things you'd like to talk about that's going on with
Well,
the committee?
On the committee side, the other side of it is awareness.
That's right. Yeah.
So we are offering Dementia Friends sessions. Like I said, we did one at the Y, a couple at the Y to train the instructors. That we also are willing to come to businesses, churches, and any others that would want to become educated in Dementia Friends and be able to volunteer and help out caregivers and people who have dementia. Excuse me. In June, we had Debbie Richmond here. She was from the Alzheimer's Association and spoke to a couple different groups on awareness. But coming up is a huge regional event that
really?
we're getting really excited about. Jolene Brackey is a nationwide speaker on dementia, and
Okay.
she wrote the book Creating Moments of Joy.
Oh, okay.
So, and she
Yeah.
actually has a local connection.
Oh,
Yes, she helped develop the memory care unit at Morningside
Oh,
back
really?
in the 80s. She was out.
Wow.
So
Yeah, great.
it's cool to be able to bring her back, and
Yeah.
she's going to be here November 17th.
Okay.
We don't have the times or location worked out yet,
Yeah.
but look for details
Yeah.
for that.
So, and that'll be like maybe just, one session, is that right? Or will it be
Yeah.
more than that?
We're looking at 2 different sessions, and probably be the time frame we're looking at right now is 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. But we don't quite have
Oh,
the
yeah.
specifics
Sure,
worked.
sure.
But
So well, that's wonderful. You're really working to get all this information out there, and plus the job, the real job. You get. She is also the person in charge of Boulder States.
Boulder Creek,
Creeks. Oh, yeah.
assisted
Boulder
living.
Creek, okay.
Yep, the memory care
Memory
unit
use,
there.
yeah.
So
So she's got a lot. You got a lot on your plate.
yep,
Yep.
but it's good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, this is very, very good, and I'm just so glad that people are stepping up to help, and that people in our community are saying, okay, yeah, let's learn about this instead of being, oh, well, I don't need to do this, and I don't know anybody like that, or
I'm wondering if maybe Jamie could share the warning signs of Alzheimer's or dementia, because I had a student in one of my yoga classes who I told about this program, and the student said, I'm concerned about my aunt or relative. And he said, what are the warning signs? And I told him about some resources, but it might be interesting for people to hear from
Sure.
you.
That
Yeah.
would be great.
Well, good. I can share that.
Okay.
So the 10 warning signs are, it's memory loss that disrupts daily life. Sometimes we forget appointments and stuff, and that's just typical
Yeah.
aging. But it comes back and you'll remember. It's really the ones that you totally forget about, and you can't relay and come back to that. Number 2 is the challenges in planning or solving problems.
Sure.
So what's typical is making occasional error, balancing the checkbook, but this is a big one where people see is looking at their finances and the checkbook's all over the place, or like the numbers aren't adding up, or they're writing odd checks, because it gets really hard to start writing a check and to be able to know where to fill out things correctly.
Sure.
Number 3 is difficulty completing familiar tasks at home, work, or leisure. So that has to do with trouble driving, or using the microwave or the toaster, things like that. Also, a big thing is confusion with time or place. I found this one's a little more difficult because once you're retired, time, like becomes
Doesn't matter
It
what
doesn't
day
really
it
matter
is.
what day it is. You know, every day is Saturday. So,
Yeah, that's right.
so that one's a little bit trickier
Yeah.
because I have found when I was on maternity leave that time really, you don't really
Sure.
need to know what day it is.
Yeah.
So it gets a little bit more difficult to see that. Trouble understanding visual images and spatial relationships. Vision, you have trouble judging distance, and it's hard to see side to side. The vision
sure.
kind of comes and you get like no peripheral vision anymore, so it's hard to see off to the side. And so making sure you always approach people from the front is important.
Sure. Yeah.
Another warning sign is new problems with words or speaking, or trouble writing. So the words start to jumble together. They have trouble forming thoughts, holding conversations, those kind of things.
Sure.
Another one is misplacing things and losing the ability to retrace the steps.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes we forget where we parked our car, but we're
Right.
able to go back and find it. So it's losing those judgments of, I lost my glasses and can't find it, or you put it in the freezer. You start putting them in odd things.
Yeah.
That goes along with decreased or poor judgment.
Okay.
They have a hard time taking care of themselves, keeping themselves clean. So you'll see a lot of people mismatching, wearing different clothes, maybe oily hair because they're not bathing or showering. A big one is people that live in the community is withdrawal from work or social activities.
Okay.
That's probably the biggest thing you'll see
Yeah.
of community members, is because it gets hard to go follow conversations, so they start to withdraw and start staying home more.
Sure.
And that is not a good thing, because social activity is so important to keep the brain going. So if you start to see people withdraw, pull them out, get educated in dementia, and try to keep them social and keep going
Sure.
out. The other thing is changes in mood and personality. A lot of them can get depressed because you're withdrawing from society. You're staying at home depressed, and all you think about is, why can't I recall these memories? Why can't I find things? And it just puts you in a bad place.
Yeah.
So those are things to look at.
Well, that's a good list and something to keep track of. There's being a joke years ago, something about the guy that bent over and then he couldn't remember what it was he was going to pick up or something. People have laughed about this for a lot of years, and I personally would like to see that kind of goes away, because it isn't anything that's funny. It's not humorous. It's a serious thing, and we need to look at it seriously and stop making fun of it.
Yeah.
But that's a good list for people and caregivers to remember to watch with their elderly loved ones. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
it's
good.
not at all funny. When my mother was still living at home, I remember as I began to realize what was happening with her dementia increasing, I remember one day she was trying to fill out the return address on an envelope, and she had her checkbook right next to her, and she was copying from the checkbook because she couldn't remember
Okay.
how to write.
Yeah.
And so little things like that, and putting the celery in the cabinet where the dishes were rather than realizing it went into the refrigerator. And this is a woman who at 90 would go outside and sweep the leaves off the patio at the same time as having these memory problems. So it's not funny. It's
No,
really, it's sad, but there are
Yes.
things we can do to help.
That's right, yeah. And I think, like you say, the social activity, and I'm sure like at the memory care units you have, you plan that. I know you have a lot of social activity, and that's good so that they're out there, and then they're processing the information that they're receiving in the talk back and forth amongst themselves, and that's really good.
Yes, it is very good for them too, because we've people that come from the community. You can see that have really withdrawn from society and really have those ones kind of stick to their room for a little while,
sure.
and then it's just getting them to come back out and realizing it's okay to make those mistakes. It's okay to have blurps in your, you know, it's
sure.
okay to, not remember that. Just come and have a good time and visit with your friends, make new friends.
Yeah.
And it's because all the activities are planned around dementia, so it's wonderful for them to not feel like they can't do it.
Yeah, yeah. And I've heard people say that people that with this condition, sometimes they're happier in the sense that they don't remember problems that they have or family members and so on. Have you found that at all?
Everybody is different,
Different, okay.
and that's what so many people need to understand is every person is their own individual. The most important thing is to do your research and get to know dementia as a whole and what you can expect, because not every case is going to be the same.
Okay,
So.
So, well, that's good to know. Well, it's you gals are doing a great job, and it's really nice to have you to tell about Ruth your personal experiences as well as how you're doing that out in the public and now at the Y too. That's great.
Thank you.
And I know this program is going to grow. It's got to grow because it's the opportunities out there for advancement and gaining more knowledge, and that's going to be wonderful. And the fact that you are also helping with the caregivers, that's a tough role to be in, the caregiver.
Yeah, it is. It's very
Yeah,
difficult.
speaking of not funny, that's very hard. My father is really, really sad. He's 90 and sharp as a tack, and he's losing his best friend. She's still there, but, he has to watch her all the time. And so it's hard, even though they're in assisted living, they're in an apartment. And so it's just really, it's a difficult time, but if we can offer them a little joy, that's what we want to do.
Yeah.
I have a friend whose husband is in a memory care unit, and he knows her when she comes, but he doesn't realize he's married to her. But he does recognize her. But that's tough. That's tough for the caregiver.
tough,
She
yeah.
was, that hurts. But you got to understand that the disease and that's the way it goes. So that's great. So, anything else you'd like to add?
I just want to maybe go over the things that we offer apart
good.
with the group. We also do caregiver consultation. So
Okay.
if there's a caregiver in the community that is having problems or wants some help, that you can contact us, and we will do a consultation to help you through that. There's also Powerful Tools for Caregivers. That's a 6-week course, and we're going to be hosting one at Boulder Creek soon. I don't have the details yet, but that is great for the community too, is to come in if you're a caregiver and get those tools to be successful and being a caregiver. Because without you, if something happens to you as the caregiver, what's your
That's right.
loved one that is living
Yeah.
with the disease supposed to do? That we don't want to lose the caregiver, so it's important to keep yourself going too. We do the memory loss support group at Avera, and that is Wednesdays from 9:30 to 11, every Wednesday. And we are going to be changing the time, and that's going to start in October, and the time's going to be 10 o'clock to 11:30 is the new time.
Yeah. Well, good.
So-
Well, it's been wonderful to have both of you on here, and I want to thank you for all the good work you're doing in the community. And certainly we'll want to have follow-up conversations on how things are going. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
both of
Elaine,
Thanks
for
for
having
having
us.